Unbreakable or 2001: A Space Odyssey?
2001.
King Kong or Jerry Maguire?
Jerry Maguire.
Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl or The Empire Strikes Back?
Empire.
Empire Strikes Back.
Gladiator or Total Recall?
Gladiator.
Recall. Oh my god.
It's Gladiator versus Total Recall in this episode of Film Fights. Hello everyone and welcome to Film Fights, the podcast where we use a random movie generator to pick two films and pit two contestants against each other to convince me and maybe you listening out there on what to watch next. My name is Matt Dodd, and today my two guests are Mohamad Jomaa and Jay Howell, representing Total Recall and Gladiator. Thanks for joining me today, guys.
Hey Matt, thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
Thanks. So Mohamad, I'll turn to you first. Have you seen any good movies in the past week?
I watched Zootopia. It was okay. It was good, but
Okay, I've heard a lot of good things. Haven't
yeah,
caught up
it was
with myself.
really good. It's a little heavy-handed, and I also watched Ponyo for the first time not too long ago. Sometimes, when you start comparing animated movies, things like Zootopia just kind of fall off. Even Big Hero 6 was like 1,000 times better, I think, than Zootopia.
Interesting. Okay.
And Zootopia was good though. Don't listen to this and think, oh, Mohamad
hates Zootopia. That's what
No,
I'm taking away
Bunny
from
was
this.
cute and the frogs.
All right. So Jay, how about you? Have you seen anything good in the last week?
I watched 10 Cloverfield Lane,
It's one I've
The
been
other
looking
night.
forward to. Yeah.
and I really liked it.
Okay.
Ooh, no spoilers. It's in my queue.
Yeah.
Dude,
me too.
John Goodman,
Is
amazing.
Okay.
Like, so good in it.
Good.
It's the Blu-ray sitting by my TV right now.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll let you borrow it afterwards.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
Oh, you know.
We could watch it together, like
Oh,
friends.
we could
No,
watch it
no,
together.
no. Not gonna happen.
I guess we'll get down to the fight. So, Mohamad, how long has it been since you've seen Total Recall? Even if you don't want to watch movies with me anymore.
8 years.
Okay.
7, 8 years.
Yeah, I guess we should establish, too, this is the 80s film, the original one.
Yes,
Not the
I did not see the remake.
That's
I was
probably
kind
for
of
the
curious,
best.
but I can't do it to myself. I know I'd be upset and disappointed. So.
Sure. And for people at home, if they don't know what Total Recall was or is.
It is the quintessential, I'd say. You know, it's funny because we were talking about Predator just a couple weeks ago.
We sure were.
But I think this is really the quintessential Schwarzenegger action movie of the 80s, maybe early 90s. I actually think maybe it was like a 1990 movie. But it is a sci-fi movie.
It was 1990. Good call.
A sci-fi movie that takes place in the future where a man played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, he keeps having these dreams and desires to go to Mars, which is something you can do in the future, like a vacation to Mars. But he can't do that with his salary and his wife or whatever. So he goes to a place called Total Recall that can implant those memories into your brain, giving you the sensation that you've been, or the memories that you've been to Mars. Then when he goes to get the implants put in, he kind of freaks out. He sort of chooses like a spy adventure on Mars. And as he's getting the memories put in, he freaks out and realizes that he actually is a spy. But then you're kind of like, wait a minute, are you?
What's real?
You know, what's real, what's not real, what's implanted in your memories? Is this all like the Total Recall gone bad, or is some of it true?
Okay.
It's very exciting.
Sounds like it could be very confusing, but interesting all at the same time.
It makes it sound smarter than it is.
That's probably true.
I feel like quintessential Schwarzenegger is like a vocal warm-up, like Unique New York, like quintessential Schwarzenegger.
Quintessential Schwarzenegger.
You said it great. That was impressive.
You did it pretty good too.
Thank you.
When's the last time you watched Gladiator?
Actually, pretty recently.
Okay.
My wife and I have, like many people, we have a giant DVD collection that we don't watch anymore.
Sure. I've got a ton of those myself.
never
Just
touch
sit there.
mine.
They
look
just
nice.
sit there, yeah. And so the other night, we were just like, let's watch one of the hundreds of DVDs we have, and we agreed on that one. And I remembered, like, oh yeah, I enjoy this movie. It's very cool.
Okay. If people at home don't really know what Gladiator is, maybe they missed it. Can you give a brief little synopsis on it?
Of course. Gladiator is, I would say it is my definition of like an epic movie. Like it is Rome and the Colosseum. There's war at the beginning. There's fights with tigers, and there's spears, and there is it's basically the hero's journey or whatever of the guy who he starts off as a general, Russell Crowe, and he kind of gets he's basically chosen to be like the next ruler of Rome, and kind of gets screwed over by Joaquin Phoenix. Don't remember his name.
Who hasn't been screwed over by Joaquin Phoenix?
Right?
He screwed us all over with that whole documentary thing he did for a while.
Was that real? He basically is kind of sold into this sort of slavery where he has to fight in these gladiator battles, and kind of works his way up from like these little small sort of things to, you know, the Madison Square Garden of gladiator fighting.
Okay.
Coliseum, which is way bigger than Madison Square Garden.
Sure, but no, I get your point. No, I get your point. That makes sense.
And essentially like wins over all of Rome, and they love this gladiator. And he's like the Michael Jordan of gladiators.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen both these films. It's probably been about a decade or so. But I like both of them. I remember both of them being good movies. I guess set a baseline. Mohamad, how do you feel about Gladiator? Were there things you didn't like about it, or is it just you like Total Recall more?
I really, really love Total Recall. It's one of my favorite movies, and definitely in like my top 5 favorite action films. Gladiator, to me, you kind of said it's like the sort of classic epic tale. To me, it's like the sort of retelling of, you know, classic boring, you know, epics. Like there's
very
nothing
long.
It's very long, and there's nothing, you know, to me that really sort of stands out in that movie. Like, yeah, okay, so he's broken. He used to be a great man, then he's broken, but then he rises to greatness again, and he wins over the people. It's just a very sort of predictable,
story
like,
of revenge.
Easy story.
And,
not very exciting. I mean, you get those Joaquin Phoenix thumbs, but that's about it.
He's got beautiful thumbs. You're right.
Jay, have you seen Total Recall?
I have. It's been a while. I also saw the remake too, and I think that one is the one I'm thinking of more than the Schwarzenegger one, because it was so bad.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like I remember. I mean, it's probably because I've seen it more recently, but I've seen that as well and remember it poorly.
What I love about Total Recall is that it actually, I mean, it has some of the best, if not the best, Schwarzenegger one-liners, and actually some great one-liners from like Bad Guys and stuff too.
Yeah,
it's got a lot of very silly and fun and funny moments, which really sort of captures the essence of what was great about action movies in the mid to late 80s and early 90s. But at the same time, it balances it with this very intriguing and really smart Philip K. Dick storyline. You know, it's this kind of like, as I was telling it to you, you know, you were even saying like, that sounds confusing. Well, it is confusing, but it's because your premise is unknown. Your narrator is unreliable, just in the sense of like, is he right? Is he wrong? You know, and really even what's brilliant about that movie is that you get to a point where you go, you know, you're on board with him. You say, okay, there is this wrong and you're making it right. And it's this big conspiracy that takes place on Mars. And the movie puts you on his side, and it ends like he did a good job and finished everything and figured it out. But you know, it's still in there. Even at the end of the movie, you still have this sense of like, almost in a Blade Runner kind of way of, wait a minute, did that happen? Did any of that happen? Was that real? Is it all, you know, a mistake, or was it purposely implanted into his brain? So it has these sort of extra elements, and at the same time, it has, you know, guys' heads exploding and, you know, eyeballs popping out of people's faces and 3-boobed strippers on Mars, like all these really fun, silly things.
I think all I remember from that movie is 3-boob strippers, when he pulls the thing out of his nose, and I feel like
tracking device.
Yeah, and I feel like I remember Blade Runner having like such cool like streets, and like the whole atmosphere was so cool. I feel like
Blade Runner directed by Ridley Scott,
Ridley Scott, who directed Gladiator.
Riddles. I feel like from what I remember of Total Recall was like the scenery and stuff was like kind of cheesy looking. But I might be wrong.
No,
it's been a
you
while.
know, I mean,
it almost was like, remember in Super Mario Brothers where they go?
You know what? It does look a lot like.
It was kind of like
Brothers,
that.
right? Mars in that movie kind of looks like whatever.
Like if I saw a Koopa or something, I'd be like,
I love
That makes
Super Mario
sense.
Brothers movie too. Nobody loves that movie but me.
But that is a good point, though, and something I kind of wondered is, do you think it really holds up? Like,
I do think
is it hindered by some of that?
No,
'Cause obviously
actually, I
effects
think
are
it.
different.
Well, I think it might be hindered just in the fact that it has this sort of stigma to it because, he at one point literally takes a giant screw and sticks it in a guy's chest and yells out, "Screw you!"
Of course.
So
Why
it
wouldn't
does
he?
have these moments that people kind of look at and they kind of. Almost like on paper, that seems stupid.
Do you think
it sounds
kind of
dumb?
Do you think that was in the
Or
script?
it was a Schwarzenegger ad-lib.
Schwarzenegger
Arnold.
just went with it. Yeah.
But why I think it does hold up actually is because it has this interesting balance, which almost might be making a resurgence. I think it might make this sort of resurgence into this sort of like, yeah, it's cheesy and silly and really over the top, but it's also ultra violent, ultra dark and kind of like scary and very thoughtful, in the same way that, and it's weird to compare the two or anything, but in the same way that maybe like a Raiders of the Lost Ark, or something like that would have, where it is kind of fun and campy, but also people's faces are melting off. And,
Okay.
I mean, I think definitely Total Recall is even more of an extreme. Like, so many people get shot to death in that movie, and like innocent people. Like early on in the movie, there are like guys mowing down crowds with machine guns.
Okay.
It's pretty disturbing. There's like a part where like one of the bad guys grabs like a woman and uses her as like a human shield, going down an escalator, and the woman's just being shot repeatedly as he holds her. It's the director is, I can never say his name, but he's the guy who did RoboCop, which is also
Oh, right.
sort of in that same
Paul
vein.
Vanderhoven?
Vanderhoven. I
Whatever.
want to say Voorhees.
Verhoeven? Verhoeven, I
like
think.
the bad guy
Verhoeven.
from Jason.
Like Jason Voorhees?
Yeah.
So, Jay, are you a fan of sci-fi films in general? Like, so we talked about Blade Runner a little bit. Directed by Ridley Scott as well.
Yeah, no, I am, and I don't want to sound like I don't like Total Recall,
Sure, no,
because
that's
I
okay.
do.
Yeah.
But between the two, I Gladiator kind of resonates with me a little bit more. Because, like I said, when I think of Total Recall, I think of him pulling the bulb thing out of his nose.
Yeah,
When I think of Gladiator, you got that iconic shot with the, like, grain with his hand.
It's funny. It's like that's like the only thing of that movie I really remember.
That's fine.
That one.
That's still better than him pulling something out of his nose. But no, and it is super long. But I think I do really like, when I watched it recently, I kind of forgot that it almost turns into like a sports movie at a certain point.
It kind of
Like
does, yeah.
Russell Crowe becomes like the quarterback.
Yeah.
And what's the guy's name? Dujman?
Sure.
Oh, Dijon.
Sure.
Dijon.
Dijon.
Vasu.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dijon
Okay,
Vasu.
that guy. He's awesome. So yeah, he sort of becomes almost like the the wide receiver kind of guy.
Right.
Okay, and then there's a big guy who I haven't seen him in anything else, but he's a big dude, and he kind of like, he has a role too where he's kind of like blocking. And so at a certain
Russell
point,
Crowe becomes the Adam Sandler of their toughest yard.
don't you dare.
Longest
Russell Crowe
yard.
becomes the James Vanderbeek in
Of
Varsity
their
Blues.
Varsity Blues.
Yes.
I don't want your life.
Him saying, "Are you not entertained?" is him saying, "I don't want your life."
You know what's funny is I will often, if I've been drinking, do that quote from Gladiator, but I always do it as Christopher Waltz. So I go, "Are you not entertained?"
That's such a bad Christopher Waltz.
Why? That's a perfect.
No.
It's Christopher Waltz in Gladiator.
Christoph
Are you
Waltz.
not entertained?
Oh, it got worse.
Yeah,
Are you not entertained? If I'm drinking, it sounds perfect.
I believe
to
that's
everybody
true.
around.
Yeah, I believe, as long as we're all drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that's true.
Are you not entertained?
That's terrible.
No,
Why-
because he's very subtle.
That's-
When he speaks, everything he says is more like
that's a bingo.
this. See?
That was pretty good. I did go subtler, but are you not entertained? I am.
no.
I don't know what that is.
I feel like in high school when I first saw Gladiator, I was so like rebellious and like, this is an Oscar movie. I don't like Oscar movies. And like I kind of like put it off. And then like now as I'm like an older guy who's like you said, it is predictable, but I'm like, I'm kind of okay with predictable.
Well, you know what? I do tend to kind of give that movie a hard time, but I actually remember liking it a lot when I saw it for the first time, and I like Ridley Scott, and I think Ridley Scott went through a period that I actually wasn't very big of a fan of, and I think it kind of kicked off with Gladiator, like
Okay.
2000s Ridley Scott was a little weird. He did a lot of movies like Gladiator, and they just all kind of were boring to me. It was like, okay, this sort of era and big battles and stuff.
Yeah, you had your like Kingdom of Heaven, Black Hawk Down.
Yeah, even Black Hawk Down was kind of in that same, which I didn't see, but it kind of in the same realm of like these sort of like very Hollywood kind of movies.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh,
I think Gladiator's the best of those, or at least of the ones I've seen.
A thing I was thinking about too about Gladiator is, do you remember like when DVD players first happened?
Yeah.
Everyone's house that you went to, had Gladiator, The Patriot, and The Matrix. It was like they came with the DVD player. Yeah. Everyone's house had those movies.
So before I make my final decision, let's see how much you really know about your two films. We got a few trivia questions for each. Russell Crowe was continually unhappy with the screenplay. He rewrote much of it to suit his own end. He would frequently walk off the set if he didn't get his way. What famous line did he initially refuse to say?
Are you not entertained? I'll say, are you not pleased? That sounds so much better.
I'm going to say, the only other line I remember is, does he say don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes? Or is that a different movie with a battle?
There's no guns.
I think that's a different movie.
They're bow and arrows. I mean, don't shoot.
Slingshots.
Whatever. Was it that one?
So close. I don't think it was. It might have been, but that's not what's on the page.
He refused to say it, and then he didn't say it. So you're right.
According to this, it was, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next.
Oh, yeah.
He reportedly told the writer, William Nicholson, your lines are garbage, but I'm the greatest actor in the world, and I can make even garbage sound good.
Man, he seems like a likable guy.
I know, right? What year do the events depicted in Total Recall take place?
2027?
2014.
You're both a little bit off.
$1.
It's never mentioned in the film, but the cover of the VHS edition mentions it takes place in 2084.
2084.
All right, well, one last thing for Total Recall. Apparently, the Cola Wars of today carry on far into the future. In this film, only one soft drink is advertised on Mars and one on Earth. What are those two soft drinks?
I'm going to go with Pepsi on Earth, Dr. Pepper on Mars. It sounds like kind of radical.
Okay.
I would go with Mountain Dew on Earth, Mountain Dew Code Red on Mars.
Coke achieved global domination. It's the only thing on Earth. Pepsi is the only one advertised on Mars. I don't know how they made that decision of like, we're going to both be like in this movie, and it's kind of weird. All right, so it's time to wrap this up with your final thoughts. So, Mohamad, you can totally take this opportunity to take this minute or so and play in your character. No? Okay. All right. Well, I gave you the option.
I just wasted it on Christoph Waltz impressions.
So,
thanks for the minute. Oh, you're not entertained.
Oh, no.
Total Recall is in my top 5 action movies of all times because of its brilliant balance of sort of extreme action and intrigue and humor and sort of not taking itself very seriously. Also, just as a study of Schwarzenegger, it's worth the watch because they really nail down the sort of one-liner, rage-filled Schwarzenegger that you get sort of before and after that movie. But I think they really nail it down in that one, more so than even Predator or Commando or any of those. So,
all right, very good. So we flip over to you, Jay. You get your final thoughts on Gladiator. About a minute or so. What you got?
So, Gladiator, the soundtrack is composed by Hans Zimmer, and I didn't know that until this recent time that I watched it. And I recognize that because he's one of the only composers that I know his name. And I was like, oh, cool, Hans Zimmer. Music's really great. I think Ridley Scott called him up and was like, Invader Zim, it's riddles. I need a soundtrack for a Gladiator movie. And Hans Zimmer was like, how long is this movie? And he was like, probably like 3 hours. And he was like, I've got 3 hours of Gladiator music. It's really good. It works very well.
You and William Bagley both think Hans Zimmer is a reason to watch a movie.
That's true. William Bagley from Episode 2, Interstellar versus Toy Story.
Very much.
Dude, Interstellar is
very much push Hans Zimmer onto Matt.
Oh, man, that means I've got to choose. I was kind of leaning towards you, but I think I'm going to have to go with Mohamad on this, too. I love Hans Zimmer as
Boom
well,
shakalaka.
but I think I'm looking forward to the more fun, like, crazier aspects of Total Recall. I think you sold that pretty well. Jay, you did a great job. So last week, Vanderbilt Wright won this here episode competition. He chose Jeremiah Johnson for us to talk about. You guys seen Jeremiah Johnson?
I love that movie.
It's old Robert Redford film.
Okay.
It's crazy. I feel like I probably talked about it a lot in high school.
I tuned you out a lot in high school.
You like it a lot?
I love that.
Grew up watching it?
I watched it. Actually, David Marsh showed it to me probably when we were in like the 7th grade.
Okay.
So I was young enough, but he showed it to me like the way a dad would show like a kid that movie. He was like, "Sit down and hear the tale of Jeremiah Johnson." Just another 7th grader.
That's great. Yeah, my dad introduced me to that film. Watched it several times over the years. It's great movie though.
I
love it.
I love that movie.
Yeah. All right. Well, as the winner, Mohamad, you get the chance. You get a bonus film you get to recommend to the listeners this week.
Cool. I was thinking about this already, and
because you're just like, I'm gonna win. I know.
Well, I was hoping I would
Sure.
win because
Confident.
I won with Point Break.
You won with Matrix.
I won with Matrix and recommended Point Break.
Correct.
Which there are 3 action movies that are like from that era that stay up in my like favorites list: Point Break, Total Recall, and now I'm going to recommend the 3rd, Red Dawn, the movie about Russians and the Chinese teaming up and coming in and invading a small town in Colorado, and the group of high school students that have to fight back. Sort of in the same realm. It's definitely not as silly or funny, but it is a movie that on paper seems like it should be a silly, kind of dumb 80s action movie. But in actuality, it's got a lot of interesting things to say. It's got some amazing action scenes in it. It's very dark and keeps you on the edge of your seat. Have you ever seen it?
I have not actually. I'm worried that I'm not going to feel like it holds up very well. But I'm looking forward to watching it.
They also remade that one, I think.
They know, which I also didn't watch that because I was a little worried. And they remade Point Break. They literally remade
all of your hopes and dreams.
I mean, all the movies from that time
3.
because they feel like they're. But you know what's funny is that they take away all the stuff that made those movies great, which are
none of those did well.
The fun, cheesy sort of aspects to them they get rid of. But yeah, it's got an amazing cast: Patrick Swayze, Charlie Sheen, C. Thomas Howell.
Cool. All right. Well, I look forward to watching it. It's always been on my list, but just never got around to it. Now having a good excuse.
Don't be mad at me if you don't like it, though.
I will get mad at you anyway. It doesn't matter. You can make your decision out there in listener land. Let us know on our Film Fights Podcast Facebook page. We can discuss the matchup. Or you can tell me directly what you think on Twitter. I'm at Matthew Dodd. You can check out previous episodes of Film Fights on iTunes, SoundCloud, or wherever you might be listening to podcasts. And be sure to subscribe. Mohamad, where can people find you online?
I'm on Twitter, Mo Jomaa, Mojomaa. You can also find me at my alter ego that I made up completely off the top of my head, at nlucation. It's my alter ego, Luke Williams.
Luke Williams?
Yeah, that's my alter ego.
I've heard of
that.
I've heard you play that character before. You're very good.
Yeah, I did it on the show that one time. I pretended to get really angry when I lost.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's a fun time.
Jay, where can people hear more about you on the internet?
I'm on Twitter at Hey Jay Howell. I'm in a band called Pony League, which you can check out on Facebook and iTunes and Spotify and all the music outlets.
You're touring around Atlanta sometimes. You play shows in Atlanta.
Yeah, we actually have a show August 26th. We're playing at the Drunken Unicorn. They're doing this big outdoor festival thing with 3 Taverns Brewery.
Oh, cool.
And we get to play, I think we're headlining that night.
Awesome.
So it should be really cool. And there will be good stuff to drink and good tunes.
I love your band, Jay.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a big fan.
Oh, that's awesome.
I used to come see you guys all the time. I haven't seen you in a while.
I thought you didn't like us anymore, so I'm glad.
I really do. I just...
All right, well, thank you guys for both being here. Thanks for listening out there. And enjoy the movies, everyone.
Whoop, whoop.